Okay, so we've got our first question. So these have been sent in via the QR codes, and I'm going to put the questions. We're going to kind of, not exactly alternate, but there's going to be questions for both of our speakers. And the first one is a question to Reverend Munther, and this is from Sabah Udin. I am a British imam. I thank you for your wise words that you have said about the importance of seeing the lives of Palestinians equal to everyone else in the world. I do a lot of work in the world of interfaith, and I wanted to ask you how I can help rebuild the bridges as an imam with other faith leaders.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Where's the imam? It's okay. Oh, there you go. Thank you. I think when it comes to Palestine, first of all, it's important to emphasize, it's really important that this is not a religious conflict. Yeah. And once it serves some people to actually portray it as a religious conflict. It serves the colonial narrative to portray it as a religious conflict. So we should not fall in this trap. And we should fight it. And once we move beyond this, when it comes to the work of interfaith, many things have been tried. But to me, what proves to be the thing that unites us more together is when we are united in our passion for justice, in common causes. I always say, when I speak in interfaith events, I wish we as people of different faiths compete not in convincing one another who has the right faith, but compete in who serves the other more. Let this be our competition, and if we have to join forces to serve our communities, why not? Even better. So this is what I would say, let's find common causes of justice that serves our humanity and make these causes bring us together. I think the world is thirsty to see people of different faiths come together and work together for a common cause. And one of the very few, let's say, I know I'm peasant, bright things in this brutal, dark days of a genocide is to see Jews, Muslims, and Christians coming together in many places to work together to end the genocide and free Palestine. So if we can come together on such causes, I think this is how we can build stronger alliances between us as people of different faiths.
Thank you. So we have a question. I'm going to run two questions together because they're actually very similar. From Hadiza to Dr. Zomlot, and the questions are from Hesham El Sayad and also from Dr. Aziz Hafiz from Humanity First UK. So the question is, what does the future look like in Gaza specifically and for the West Bank? Is a two-state solution even possible at this stage with Netanyahu in power? And with Rafah, the last refuge now under attack, what is next? How should the humanitarian community prepare?
Thank you. If we go on at the same rate, we should prepare for the worst, Aziz, for the very worst. Israel is absolutely set on a plan that started from day one. We say to the world, I was among those who were warning that Israel will not aim at Hamas. Israel will not aim at eradicating Hamas. Israel will instrumentalize the moment to eradicate the Palestinian people. And this has been happening, a blueprint of ethnic cleansing, mass expulsion, genocide. And Israel is addict to ethnic cleansing. There is addiction. They know how to do it. And what you see in Rafah is a repeat on steroids of the first Nakba. And by the way, I am the son of the first Nakba. I know what happened to my parents and grandparents. I was born in a refugee camp in Rafah. And I tell you, I can compare, and what Gaza has gone through, what Rafah is going through right now, is nothing compared to the Nakba of 1948, which was Nakba, when we lost 2/3 of our people. 2/3 of the Palestinian people were forcibly, ethnically cleansed from our homes, our farms, businesses. And if you follow the plans from day one, why Israel would use starvation as a weapon of war? Why the use of disease and the spread of communicable diseases? Why Israel would target 370 schools, literally destroying, damaging 70% of Gaza's schooling stock?
And the universities.
Why would Israel destroy Gaza's entire university stock, the 12 universities, gone? Why would they focus on the key lifeline sectors of Palestine in Gaza? Health, you know what they did to hospitals, schools and universities. What else? Are you in doubt? Anyone on earth is in doubt what is the intent here? And therefore, the only thing that could have stopped this is the international community. And I don't want to add much of what Dr. Issac said earlier. But the failure of international community to uphold their own responsibilities over the last 130 days or so, plus now, is going to come back to haunt every one of us. This is the most existential threat of our global system. This is the end of what we built together after the horrors of the World War II. That system was built on our universal values. People say these are Western values. No, these are universal values, not Western values. The people came together and said never again. The values of freedom, of dignity, of equality, of no wars that are allowed, of rules should war erupt. And should these rules being violated, there are accountability, the ICC and the ICJ. So there is a clear Israeli plan, there is a clear international failure, Western failure, double standards, duplicity, selectivity, hypocrisy, name it. These rules are obvious. These rules are created for the few, not all. These rules are applied only on the West's foes, i.e. Russia, but not on the West's friends, i.e. Israel. But talking about the future, I'll end here. Because I am the son of the first Nakba, and like Munther, I know my people very well. We will recover. We will survive. We will rise. We will embrace our children. Like my parents and grandparents embraced us completely. Abdulaziz completely insulated us from the first Nakba and invested whatever left, because they lost almost everything. Invested whatever left in us, in our education, in our upbringing. And by the way, we didn't live a situation of sadness and hurt and trauma. No. We lived a perfect life because they provided for us. They knew that they have to insert in us the love for our nation, the love for our history, for our identity, and the fight for our future. And I think the same thing will happen in Gaza, the same thing will happen in Jerusalem, the same thing. And by the way, let's not divert, because what is happening in the West Bank is not less evil and not less planned. It's all over. Jenin, Nablus, Al-Khalil, Al-Quds, everywhere. So I really have faith in our people. And because I'm next to a reverend, also Palestine has some connection and some resonance with resurrection, right? We resurrect. We resurrect. We do resurrect. And I think we will resurrect. I think we will pass through the second Nakba. I think we will rebuild Gaza more beautiful, more resilient, and we will come back again. And I think this is a time when we go all the way to liberation, not just for a ceasefire. Thank you.
Next question is for Reverend Munther. And again, I'm combining a couple of questions. So these are from Sanam Hussein and also from Sarah Joseph.
Saddam Hussein.
Where is Saddam? Saddam Hussein is here?
Okay, so that's... Have I fallen into a trap there?
Talking about the resurrection.
Talking about, yeah, we just mentioned resurrection. That's true.
Okay. Why is it that more Christians in the West are not speaking up about the atrocities? And also, where are the UK churches and how do we get them to engage?
This is the first time I see an upload for the question.
I told Husam that I'll leave my anger and frustration on the church for tomorrow's event. But since I was asked, and before I answer this question, and I know I've been very, very critical, and and not just me, but Palestinian Christians in general feel, betrayed. And this is not new. This is not just this war. But before I answer that, I think it's really important to preface my comments by acknowledging the support of many and even the costly solidarity of many. Many of you, I see here in this room, many church leaders I see who paid heavy, heavy price for their solidarity with us. And I really thank them. There are those who are speaking. There are those who are lobbying. There are those within the church who are always, we communicate with them. And I want to begin answering this question by acknowledging them and thanking them for their support and solidarity. But yes, it is frustrating and it's not new. Going back to, I mentioned the Balfour Declaration, and even before that, the idea of a land without people that was promoted by many British Christians, a nation without a country. We've always been dismissed and dehumanized, and we've always been sacrificed. Even when Western Christians want to deal with their own guilt and racism, anti-Semitism, they didn't pay the price. They made us pay the price. They sacrificed us to atone for their own sins. And as I said, it's been 76 years of complicity and theology that justifies all of this. And when you ask me where is the church, I think we live in an age in which many church leaders feel that they don't want to offend anybody. They don't want to be controversial. And I always say, have you read the Gospels? Was Jesus controversial? Did Jesus offend people? I mean, Jesus, even if he tried, he wouldn't succeed in not offending people when he was in Palestine. This was his ministry, challenging the status quo. I think the church wants to be too comfortable. And they craft their statements. And it's becoming an art, honestly, in a bad way, I mean, where they craft statements. Sometimes they could be 2-3 pages long without saying anything. They dance. They want to make sure that everybody who reads this statement gets something. And to me, a lot of this goes back to this shallow diplomacy, or the idea of peacemaking, and peacemaking as neutrality. And to me, peacemaking does not mean neutrality. We cannot be neutral. We have to take sides because God takes sides. And I've been saying this throughout Christmas. If Jesus were to be born, he would be born under the rubble in Gaza. He's taking sides with the oppressed, with the marginalized, with the victims of a genocide. God takes sides, so should we. It's sorry to say, it's actually fake spirituality when you want to be neutral and then we're praying for peace. No, we have to take sides. We have to speak truth to power. I think this is what's missing from the church in many contexts today. And it's frustrating because they're not paying the price. We are. And that's why we have been speaking out, and that's why we penned one statement after the other, and that's why we said what we said. We've written all of these statements because it hurts us. And I've been challenging church leaders who are coming to Palestine 3 months after the genocide started with words of solidarity, sometimes apology. And I say, how can our relationship continue when you've been silent about the genocide of our people and siblings in Gaza? How do you expect that we continue a normal relationship? And I know we've been hard, but because the magnitude of the horror of the genocide in Gaza demands that we speak in such language. So honestly, part of the reason why I'm here is to challenge the church to be the church. The church needs to be the church today.
Two questions to Ambassador Zomlot. First by Rand Al-Tahar. Thank you for inspiring generations of Palestinians who have not been able to go home. My question as a Palestinian diaspora is, what more can we do? And this is a question that's echoed by Husam Zomlot, who says, as a young Palestinian living in London, what do I do to show support for Palestine and the children in Gaza?
Very important questions. But before that, allow me to link to the previous question about Palestinian Christians. And Munther, how proud I am and we are to have you among us, a very inspiring Palestinian leader, Christian leader. And it's meant, it's destiny that London was your next step, next visit after that very impactful speech of yours, the sermon in Christmas or during Christmas time. But there is also a church racism against Palestinian Christians. They don't see you. And it spreads in the public. And there is, of course, not just racism, sometimes it is sheer ignorance. Ignorance. I mean, some Palestinian Christians, when they introduce themselves in the West, they get asked, oh, when did you convert? Seriously? We converted all of you guys. I mean, we are the original Christians. There was a BBC anchor, very prominent anchor, only last month, who had a reverend in her show, a British. That was the day Israel sniped, killed two, I can't remember, Palestinian Christian women, the mother and her daughter in the church, in the Orthodox church in Gaza. And that was the interview, the conversation. And then she paused and she asked that reverend, and she said, why Israel doesn't discriminate between Palestinians and Christians? Can you imagine the question? A senior anchor of BBC does not know that Palestinians are also Christians. Not only also Christians. The Palestinian Christian is the most integral part of who we are as a nation, our history. So there is a lot to be done here. And when they want to talk about racism, they bring about the relationship between Muslims and Christians, that Muslims, Palestinian Muslims, target Palestinian Christians, and that's why Palestinian Christians are immigrating in bigger number. It is Israel that targets Palestinian Christians in a disproportionate way, because it is Israel that wants to rid the land of its Christian community, because it is Israel that wants the conflict to be Muslim-Jewish, not Israeli-Palestinian. And because it's a very important topic, really, this very topic about targeting the Palestinian Christians and the Muslim community. I mean, this is what Munther, my friend, and all of us here in the church, Dr. Simon, we really need to bring to the fore who Palestinians and what Palestine is. We have been, we are, and will continue being the model of tolerance, coexistence. I am the proudest when I know until this very day the keys of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is held by a Muslim family. This is who we are. This is who we are. And vice versa. The loudest voice for Gaza came from Munther, the Lutheran church in Bethlehem. This is who we are. So we should not allow the church here to divide us and to export their issues for us. As for Palestinian beloved diaspora, refugees, exiled, you are more than half of our nation.
Yeah.
More than half of our people live in the exile, outside. And while our people inside, in Gaza, in the West Bank, including Jerusalem, and inside the 48 areas, 7 million of us inside and 7 point something outside. We are in total 14 million. Our people inside the historic land of Palestine, the best they could do given the circumstances is to survive, to withstand, to stay. But you outside have the resources, you have the space, you have the freedom, you have the tools. Use it. You are an army, and don't underestimate the power you have being outside. Remember, we mentioned South Africa. Remember how the ANC, and remember how the whole anti-apartheid movement was a movement from outside. By the way, it emanated from London, from here. And that anti-apartheid movement ended up sucking oxygen out of the apartheid regime, ended up collapsing the apartheid regime, ending up freeing Nelson Mandela and freeing the South Africans. So the power of movements outside is immense, and this is a very special moment for you, my friend, I forgot the name, sorry, to be part and to lead this movement. And finally, while it is important to be part of that global movement, remember you are Palestinian first and foremost. Be part of the Palestinian agency, be part of the Palestinian life. Go back even as a visitor, interact with our youth, and make sure that your Palestinian side is what comes first and foremost. Thank you.
Munther, question relating to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. I should have said earlier, we've just got a new blue plaque to him. So if you haven't seen it, it's on the tower in that corner on the outside, so have a look on the way out. But the question here is from Tim Slattery, who says Dr. King preached in 1958 that those who confront injustice must not hate their enemy. And the question is this possible when one's enemy is carrying out a genocide?
I'm not answering that question.
With God's help, it's possible. And let me say this. Let me answer by asking another question. What's the alternative? I think we're entitled to be angry, and we should be angry. I think we're entitled even to speak in anger. But the alternative is to fall into a state of despair and hate, and then into cycles of revenge. We're not fighting Israel because we hate the Jews. I think, and we can't fall into the darkness of hatred and revenge. This is my conviction. And I truly believe that liberating Palestinians actually means liberating Israelis from the sin of occupation and apartheid. And as I said, I don't want to lose hope. And I still want to hold to the dream that one day we will live in this land with equal rights and share this land. Let's be honest. I mean, is the goal to get rid of 7 million Israelis? No. And ultimately, we have to share the land. So if we only promote hate, I don't think we're building a good future for our children. I've always said before the war, my dream is for my children to have Israeli friends. Right now I'm saying my dream is for my grandchildren to have. It doesn't look possible. It looks so distant. And loving the enemy doesn't mean sentiments. Loving the enemy could also mean liberating, challenging them when they're wrong. And so, as I said, we shouldn't confuse love with as if neutrality. We shouldn't confuse love with passivity. No, in our love, we challenge the occupation, we challenge apartheid. In our love, we confront evil and we defeat evil with good. So this is how I understand the idea that we should love our neighbors.
Bravo.
I have one more question for each of you. So these are, I think, probably the last questions. Where have it gone? Battling with WhatsApp. Yeah, here we go. Question for Dr. Zomlot from Mary Saunders. What can we, as ordinary people in the UK, do to help expose Israel's lies of their bombing of schools, hospitals, etc., without being condemned as anti-Semitic?
First of all, I'm stealing some of his questions because they are important questions. I've decided to answer that question.
I inspired you.
Because I am the son of the first Nakba, and I am the child of the first Intifada, and I truly, truly do not remember having hate in my life or in my heart. I don't remember my parents, my grandparents, my community, my mothers with an S. I didn't even have one, as if one is not enough. I have so many mothers. It's a sense of community and it's a collective experience, the Nakba, and we all came together. But I don't remember hate being part of the conversation. We don't hate, sir. We do not hate. We resist. We resent. We struggle. Hatred is not part of our equation, but dignity is. Rejection is. We don't accept. We don't accept the dehumanization. We don't accept the ethnic cleansing. We don't accept the military occupation. We don't accept the subjugation. We don't accept the racism. We don't accept the hate. And I mean it, this is not because we don't hate. So those who use the hate to describe the situation, and we should love. We don't hate to start with, so we love. But those who want us to love our occupiers while are still under occupation are hallucinating. We will not love our occupiers while under occupation. We shouldn't.
Can you imagine loving Netanyahu?
Yeah, Netanyahu, yeah. Loving Netanyahu. So, answering the second question about anti-Semitism, Israel has managed to conflate three things and made them to mean almost the same. Not almost, made them mean the same. What is Jewish with what is Israeli, what is Jewish with what is Zionist and what is Israeli. These are the three things. So, if you dare criticize Israel's policy, you are automatically anti-Semite. This has created a toxic environment, and that's why the question came that you fear if you actually help Palestine or criticize Israeli policies, you will be tagged, described, labeled as anti-Semite. Let me tell you this. It is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, to assume that we are struggling against Israel because of their identity. And no, they could be English and we would still struggle against them. It's not because they're Jewish. It's because they're occupiers, because they're colonizers, because they're besiegers, because they're supremacists. It is not the identity of our oppressors that is at stake here. It is the fact of our oppression. So this discussion, this conversation has got to be brought to the fore. And listen, and as Munther said earlier, many of the demonstrators earlier today were Jewish people, our Jewish brothers and sisters. And I see many of them here. Please applaud them, actually. And not just the last 4 months, for 75 years, our Jewish brothers and sisters have been with us. What's more is that, the conflation between what is Jewish with what is Zionist and Israeli. More number of Jewish people live outside and not Israelis than inside. So more Jewish people are not Israelis. And here, Dr. Simon can verify this. The majority of Zionists are not Jews. Right? Mr. Seeger, you wrote a book on that. You wrote a whole book on Christian Zionism, which was the first gutsy, brave book. Stephen, about Christian Zionism. And you're sitting next to a brave also lady. Linda Ramsden. Please read his book, because the majority of Zionists are Christians. Christian Zionists and the evangelical movement. And you think the Israeli soldiers who are committing suicide right now in Gaza are only Jewish? I regret to break it for you, many of them are Muslims. Many of them are Christians. So this isn't about identity. And we have to shout out all those who want to drag us into that. Our issue is not with Judaism, our issue is not with religion. And in fact, we as Muslims, I as a Muslim, was brought up by my own grandfather to look up for Judaism. We are taught, eat with a Jew, because we share the same. So it is so dangerous, and it undermines the very real fight to uproot anti-Semitism. It does undermine it by conflating. We should make sure that we, Palestinians and our supporters, are in the forefront for uprooting anti-Semitism. Because guess what? It is vile, it does exist, and we must be one of the most strong forces against it. Because, there is no such a thing as racist light. If you are racist, you're racist. If you hate Jews, you hate Muslims, you hate yourself, you hate Christians, you hate everybody. And we hate you. And therefore, next to a preacher, I shouldn't say we hate you. But the meaning is, we Palestinians should fight anti-Semitism. We should and we must fight anti-Semitism because we know the price of racism. And Jews were targeted because they are Jews. One of the most heinous, if not the most heinous crime was committed against Jews by the Nazis. 6 million of them were slaughtered because they are Jews. So it's a fact. But equally so, the same ones who should fight anti-Semitism are the same ones like you who fight Israeli occupation. It's the same fight. It's the same struggle. You cannot subdivide your values. Therefore, to the asker, I forgot the name, when they tell you that, tell them, no, I am the one who fights anti-Semitism and I am the one who fights Israeli occupation. It's the very same fight. Thank you.
Simon, can I say something about this? Just to add to what Husam said, we should not also forget that many Christian Zionists are actually anti-Semites. Whether in their theology, that believes 2/3 of the Jews will be eradicated and the other third will convert to Christianity, or through their attitudes. And I have, I know Israelis who spent time with Christian Zionists and told me, Munther, you cannot believe the level of anti-Semitism we saw in those churches. And at the same time, I want to repeat something I said, and I think it's important we take this seriously. I truly believe that many in the West shifted their racism into support to Zionism, which means they did not deal with racism inside. And this is why now we see the same attitudes against Palestinians. And to be honest, I'm really tired of having these terms dictated on us. And many fall for this. And many choose to be silent over a genocide rather than say something out of fear that it may be perceived as anti-Semitic. Guys, have some courage. Are you anti-Semite? If no, then speak up. Do you see what's happening? They're dictating the terms. They're putting definition on anti-Semitism. And the first people to sign up are churches, and they don't want to say anything. Why? They accused you of something, you accepted it, and now you immediately don't say. So enough of this accepting these terms being dictated on us and these definitions, and they are paralyzing people from speaking. So no, speak up. But as I said, look inside. Our motive is important. And if you really have confidence in your motive and you really to know yourself, then speak up.
Final question. This one's for you, Munther, again. Your Christmas, this is from Murad Qureshi. Your Christmas sermon was exceptional. What has been the response from Christians around the world, and in particular those in the USA?
I continue to be overwhelmed by the response that sermon received around the world. I'm grateful, but at the same time, I'm frustrated and I'm deflated that the war is still happening. So what good did I do? Nothing. If we're not able to channel all of this to ending the genocide. And I think the impact of that sermon and the important thing about these words that came from Bethlehem in the time of Christmas with the manger with Jesus under the rubble next to me. I think the importance of it is it confirmed that we don't need to tell the truth. I think truth is evident. I think it convicted people because no one can claim we did not know. No one can claim we didn't know there were Christians or that there is a genocide. God led me into using very strong words, very direct words, because I've learned that soft diplomacy takes us nowhere. And I think those words spoke into many, many people's hearts and convicted them. And for that, I'm grateful. Because I would say it again. Truth is evident for those who want to admit it. It's not as if we have to explain that there is a genocide happening today. If people want to know, no, they know. It's what do you do with these truths that are very evident. My words were convicting. And that's why, those who heard it now have a choice. And I know that millions and millions around the world heard it. And they have a choice to make. And if I have be part of that message, then I'm grateful. Because humanity should not be okay. Humanity should not be okay with the idea of normalizing a genocide as if it's just another war. No. And this is why I'm grateful that my words reach many around the world.
we're nearing the end of the evening. Apologies if you sent in a question and it wasn't asked. I hope you'll get another opportunity to put it to our speakers. But thank you for engaging, thank you for being here, thank you for being part of this. Do either of you have anything that you would like to say after so many words have been said as we draw this evening to a close?
I just want to first thank you, Dr. Simon.
I was going to say this.
Really. Thank you for offering us, for offering Palestine, for offering the Friends of Palestine this very important space, very significant and historic space. We do appreciate it. You stand alone and you set yourself aside, and we will remember that. And I would like to thank the crowd here for attending, for being so engaging, and for the wonderful, difficult questions sometimes. But finally, allow me to thank our guest of honor tonight for the inspiring words, for making it all the way from the